Okay, so far the quadratic equations that we've solved have been by factoring. But as you're going to see, not every quadratic equation is going to be factorable. All right, so solving quadratic equations by square roots, which is what this lesson is about, is going to apply to equations where we can't factor anything. Okay, if we can't factor, there's other ways to solve, right? And just like linear equations, we need to use an inverse or an opposite to solve. So if we had x plus 10 equals 4, then we'd subtract 10 from both sides because subtraction is the inverse of addition, right? Now, when taking a square root of both sides, right, if we look at square root of 16, that's equal to 4 because 4 squared is 16. But that's an incomplete answer because there is another number that when you square it also gives us 16. That's going to be negative 4 squared is also 16. Negative 4 times negative 4, negative, negative, positive, right? So what we do is the complete answer to square root of 16 is plus or minus. We use that symbol. Plus or minus 4 means 4. It also means negative 4. Okay? So I take the square root of 100, right? That's going to be 10 because 10 squared is 100. But it's also negative 10 because negative 10 squared is 100. So again, we write it like plus or minus 10. Okay, so it's a plus symbol with a subtraction symbol underneath. Okay. So when taking the square root of both sides, we need to use that plus or minus symbol that we just talked about. Okay, x squared equals 25, right? There's nothing to factor there. So we said we're going to use the inverse operation. Inverse of squaring is square rooting. We're going to square root both sides. And when we take the square root of both sides, we need to use that plus minus symbol. So the square root of x squared is just x. And the square root of 25, the complete answer to that is plus or minus 5. Okay, y squared equals negative 49. If you go to your calculator, well, let's just write this down. Okay, we'll take the square root of both sides. So y is going to be plus or minus square root of negative 49. But if you go to your calculator, it's going to give you an error because there is no number when you square it that gives you negative 49. Like 7 squared, that's 49. Negative 7 squared, negative 7 times negative 7, also 49. Okay, there is no number that has a square root of negative 49. So this is no solution. Okay, this is called, this is not a real number. You'll learn about non-real or imaginary numbers next year. Okay, c squared equals 81. We'll take the square root of both sides and put a plus minus over there. So c is going to be plus or minus 9. Okay, now we get into the more complex ones. 2w squared. Okay, so we want to make it look like the ones we solved on the top. So I'm going to bring this the constant 90 to the right side. Notice we have the constants all on the right sides here. Okay, so I'm going to add 90 to each side. 2w squared equals 90. Divide each side by 2. Divide each side by 2. And we're going to have w squared equals 90 divided by 2 is 45. Okay. Now we can take the square root of both sides and put a plus minus in front. Okay, so square root of w squared is just w. And square root of 45, 45 is not a perfect square, so we're going to go to our calculator for that and give the answer to the nearest 100th. Okay. So if we go to our calculator, square root of 45 is about 6.7. So w is equal to plus or minus 6.71, which is nearest hundredth. So we'd write it as w equals 6.71, comma, negative 6.71. Okay, 3u squared plus 21 equals 105. We'll subtract 21 from each side. So 3u squared equals, that is 84. Divide each side by 3. U squared equals 28. And we'll square root both sides. Put the plus minus. So u is going to be plus or minus the square root 28. Go to our calculator. Square root of 28, 5.29. So u is going to be 5.29, comma, negative 5.29. All right, number 6 is a little different. We have the parentheses, the variables inside the parentheses. Okay, let's start by moving that 75 over. Okay, now we're going to square root each side, because the quantity being squared is what's in the parentheses, u minus 4. Okay, so square root of u minus 4 squared is just u minus 4 equals plus or minus square root of 75. And then we need to add 4 to both sides. So u is going to be 4 plus or minus square root 75. Okay. And let's see, square root of 75, square root 75, 8.66. 4 plus or minus 8.66. Okay, so now we're going to have to separate this out into two calculations. We're going to have to do 4 plus 8.66 and then 4 minus 8.66. So 4 plus 8.66 is 12.66, and 4 minus 8.66 is negative 4.66. Okay. Parentheses, y plus 3 squared plus 4 equals 36. Get rid of the 4. Y plus 3 squared equals 32. Now we'll square root both sides. So y plus 3 equals plus or minus square root 32. So y equals negative 3 plus or minus square root of 32. So we'll break that down to negative 3 plus square root of 32, negative 3 minus square root of 32. Square root of 32 is 5.66. So it's negative 3 plus 5.66, negative 3 minus 5.66. So that is 5.66 minus 3. That's 2.66 and negative 8.66.